Hello, Seton 5th and 6th grade students. It's Mrs. Herbst here again, and I am bringing to you one more colored pencil experience with color, at least one more. Today you're going to need your colored pencils, so make sure you've got those. I do want to show you a little bit of a review before we get started. So we are going to be drawing objects. Let me go back. We're drawing objects with our opposite colors. So if you didn't watch last week, or if you missed it for some reason, I do want you to kind of focus on this because I'll try to get as much in as I can. Today we're going to be drawing pieces of fruit using multiple colors and colored pencil techniques. So you should be able to draw some simple fruit shapes and fill them in with multiple colors and using multiple techniques. So you will need colored pencils, as I said. You will need a pencil sharpener, you will need paper, and a graphite pencil with an eraser. This is not too much different from drawing the base drawing of our name tag and then in graphite and then coloring it in with colored pencil. It's a very similar process. So our norms for art class: make your space your own. Even though it's hard to do this, I'll tell you, do what you can to identify your space and to kind of keep yourself focused. Whatever you need to do to keep yourself focused. Don't seek out perfection, be flexible, work with your mistakes, not against them. Enjoy your mistakes, really enjoy them. Work as long as you would like. We're not limited by class time. So you don't have to ask me if you can take your work home. It is home with you. And then engage with your work and persist until the end. So in art class, we anticipate mistakes, we respect the creative process, and we try until we're satisfied. So last week we went over the color wheel. So we have our primary colors. It says down at the bottom, primary colors. We have red and we have yellow and we have blue. And aside from the red, the yellow, and the blue, those colors themselves make up the red, yellow, and blue make up all the other colors of the spectrum. So we have red and yellow together make orange, yellow and blue together make green, and then blue and red together will make a violet or a purple. So those are our colors. Now these yellow or orange, green, and violet are called secondary colors because they're the second colors, the ones that are made from combining the primary colors. And then you have these ones in between. These are called tertiary colors, but we're not going to really get into that too much. For right now, what I'd like you to do is look at these unique pairs, the larger circles, and go across the page. So we have yellow is directly across from violet, green is directly across from red, and orange is directly across from blue. Those colors are called the opposite colors because they are opposite each other in the spectrum. So primary colors are, really quick review, red, yellow, blue. Secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. So the secondary ones are the ones we can make. Now, opposite colors, we have red. And when you go back to that, if you go back to that color wheel, what is opposite of red is, you got it, green. And then mixing the two of those will give you not a tertiary color or anything different, it gives you brown. If you mix yellow, and yellow's opposite color is what? Purple. It will give you, wait for it, brown. Now if you mix blue and its opposite color, which is orange, you will get, great job, brown. Yes. So opposite colors create their own shadows. So when you want to make a shadow, especially on a piece of fruit or something that tends to be more or less simple in coloring, you will look for the opposite color of whatever you're coloring to create a shadow on that item. So there are 5 techniques of coloring that we have used so far. The first one is sharp tip coloring, and that basically just means you need a very sharp tip. Okay, sharpen your tip, sharpen it very sharp, as pointy as you can get it. It could actually kind of hurt your finger a little bit. But you're going to make sure that those tips stay sharp. So that's why we try to have a pencil sharpener with us. The other one is cross-hatching, and cross-hatching is nothing more than just coloring lines one direction and then coloring lines the other direction. And that gives you a nice, even way to color things in. Color blending or color layering is simple. It's just layering multiple colors over one another. And we're going to do that for sure with our pieces of fruit. And then we'll work on maybe a little more of this, but not today, the pencil shaving technique, where you take your pencil shavings and you put them down on your paper and rub them in, and it helps you to fill in some of the white space on your paper. All right, let's move over as quickly as possible to paper and get started on our drawing.
Today I brought with me a few pieces of fruit. So I brought with me an apple and an orange and also a banana. And I do want you to notice as we look at these, you know, as observers, right? Not just as artists, but as pseudoscientists, right? As sort of budding scientists. We're going to look at these pieces of fruit. I want you to notice, yes, a banana is yellow, so we'll start with the yellow part, but it also has, you know, this banana is not fresh, so it has a couple of these little spots on it. It has like a little maybe scratch right here. It opened up, so look at, there's this line that's browned, and the edge of this on this side is sort of frayed. And then there's also this sort of rectilinear, angular edge of the banana here. So the banana, as you can see, has multiple surfaces, and this will come in handy when you try and draw it. So it's not just super round. It has these little, you know, flat surfaces, one here, a kind of a curvy surface here, a flat surface here, a flat surface here, and then a curved surface there. This orange also is not perfect. It's not, you know, you probably wouldn't notice it. You might pick it out if you were in the grocery store. You'd say this looks like a perfectly good orange, but upon closer inspection, you can see there are some marks on it. It's not entirely orange. It has some green over here, some green with the orange. And, you know, keep in mind this shadowed side right here, right? Some down here, there's a lot of shadow over here and over here. So these shadows are going to, remember, we're going to color some of the shadows in. And then I have this apple, and I mean, oftentimes we color apples red, or maybe green, or maybe yellow, but I just want you to take a look at this. Take a look at just the different variety, the dots and the lines that you see on the skin of this apple. And so on this red side, remember, what's our opposite color of red for that shadow would definitely be green. But then when you have a yellow side, you know, what would the, I don't know if you can see it. I can actually see it, but it's taken me a long time to be able to observe this. I can actually see the purple in here. It's pretty difficult, but you never know. Somebody may be able to see it in 5th or 6th grade and, If you see it, you're way ahead of where I was at your age. So, and look at these bumps up here. There's a little, nudge up there. There's kind of a bruise right here. I thought I found another one. There are some dents right in here. And the little brown spot. Another, bump or bruise. Kind of a... And then look at the center of this. So here's where the stem is. Right? And all of these, so this, all of these have a stem end and a blossom end. Right, so there's a blossom end. That's where the blossom is. And then the fruit comes out of the bottom of the blossom. So here's the stem end and the blossom end. And the same with the orange. And the banana is a little bit different, but it does have a stem end, an attached end, and it has its open end. So because we know that these are imperfect shapes, we can start, when we look at an apple, some of the ways we draw an apple, when we look at the apple, I'm going to start drawing with a graphite. When you look at an apple, look at this angle right here. That is not, it's not a straight flat apple. And this side is shorter. This side is bigger and rounder. So, let's know that when we draw an apple, we're not going to have, it's got this kind of imperfect shape. Right? And the stem comes out of there. There's sort of a bump. If you look at the edge of this stem, kind of a little. And then it has this big part right here, and then over there. So that there, right there is my apple. Now, I don't have to draw it exactly, but I might want to get some of that yellow in. I may want to do some yellow and some red. So I'm going to pull out some really nice, sharp colored pencils that I can start to work with. And these are just the original colors of the apple, right? So I know that there's a lot of yellow, at least on one side. And so I'm just going to start. And now you can see that I don't have a sharp enough pencil because there's a lot of white space in here. And when we're doing our sharp tip coloring, what's one way you can tell that you're really doing enough? So this is my pencil tip, and you can see how dull that actually is. And after you've done a couple sharp tip coloring exercises, you will notice the difference between the two different types. And look at how well this starts to color and how it covers the paper. So I see a lot of yellow, at least throughout half of it, the way I have my apples sitting on my table. And there's a lot more sort of at this top end. And my pencil's not getting, it's losing some of its sharpness. So I'm going to and I definitely feel great that I did not now there's just a little bit of yellow in there. And again, this is my orange. I want to make sure that I really have a nice, sharp pencil for sort of working in. And this is sort of just an undercoloring, actually, because once I get to the red, if you look at that apple, there is clearly a lot of red on top of orange, if you can see that. But remember, we had layered coloring. And so I'm definitely mixing more than one color. That's another technique. And now, after all of that, does that look sharp enough to you? Nope. And so here we're going to take this. And I sharpened this on the other side because I do want to give a little bit more texture. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to color right in here. And for right now, I do want this to be pretty smooth. Not terrifically smooth, but at least I want to And now with this texture here, I'm not trying to go for something perfect. I'm just trying to go for something sort of irregular. And I can kind of accomplish that by just sort of drawing what I think I'm seeing. And it's not going to be perfect, of course. But we are not looking for perfection. And I'm even going to try to get sort of a darker red in here. Maybe something a little bit deeper. So if you can tell the difference. This is a bluer red. It's a little bit more bluish. And I'm going to get this in here. Sharpen up and try to put some more texture. Layering these colors can really give you that effect. And you can see that just putting some of these spots in here really gives me the color I'm looking for. Okay, now I'm going to put a shadow. I see a shadow over here and a little bit over here, and you can see that the light sources are coming in. I have a lot of light on here right now. So I have light sources coming from kind of all over, and I want to get some shadows in. And so when we talked about adding shadows before, what did I say? What did I say we're using? We're going to use our opposite colors. So the opposite color that we have for red is, you say it first. Perfect. It's green. And so the first color that I'm going to color with will be green. And I'm going to only color, I'm going to try to steer a little bit clear, except up at the top. I'm going to pick sort of a nice green that goes with this red. And I'm going to go really lightly, just like I did with all of my other sharp tip coloring. I'm going to come in really lightly and just color where I see some shadows, and that's all over this side. Now this looks a little scary, intimidating even at first, but you can see I'm just coloring where there's red. I'm not coloring in the yellow yet. And I'm sort of coloring in a whole area. And when you look at this, you will see that you, instead of seeing this as green, your eyes start to register this as part of the shadow. And that is kind of what we're going for. We really want to show that the shadow here is near the bottom of the apple. So over here it's orangish red, and so I'm going to get a bluish purple to color with. And then down here, just right before, I just want to quickly layer over a couple little bits of red. And so I'm going to get my bluish purple, sort of a little more purpley than an indigo. And I'm going to come in, and everywhere there's orange or yellow, I'm going to color in here too. Pretty much most of that bottom edge. And you really can barely tell the difference between these two color blends because, like I said, they both make what we see as brown or as a shadow. And I can kind of blend them a little bit. And now you see, while this is not perfect, I do have my apple. Now what I'm missing down here is sort of a shadow. And it's hard to find the color exactly for that shadow, but I definitely think that the green and the purple, if I overlaid some green and purple, it probably wouldn't hurt anything. So I'm going to put a really light layer. We're just going to get some shadows. And we have multiple shadows that kind of overlap each other right here. And so this part right there is a little bit darker. And then I'm going to come in with my purple, and I'm going to actually just kind of color over this. Mainly because these are the reflective colors also of the shadow. So they're also bringing some of that color, reflecting, the light's reflecting off of there. And it's giving us this color. So here we go. Okay, and that is, oh, I did want to put some green up here. If you can see, there's a little bit of green in here and some red. So I'm going to get some green and maybe a little bit of yellow. And then definitely some red. So you can do this same exercise with an orange or with a banana. Just remember, what are your orange colors? You know, your opposite for orange is going to be blue, and your opposite for yellow, just like we did here, will be purple. So here's my apple, and it's not exact. I'm going to hold it up because when you see things kind of on an angle, you can't tell. Okay, so this is my apple. And I'm going to do the same thing with the banana and the orange. And I'm going to do a combination of drawing what I see and drawing what I can kind of demonstrate. So when you look at a banana, one of the things that people often see is they see, you know, just a crescent shape. And so people kind of do this, like a moon. And while that's okay, that isn't really how a banana works. It has a pretty thick side here, and this bottom is also thick and then flat right there. So I don't see that here drawn on, although I can add it, right? So I can take that crescent shape and say, oh, you know, I didn't like the way that looked, but here, let's try this. And maybe I didn't like the way that end looked, So I'll do it this way. And so I'm going to remember that there are some unique sides in this. A couple flat ones, and then a curved one. So I'm going to start with some yellow, and I'm kind of going to, do you see I have all this graphite on here? And graphite, especially with a yellow pencil, is going to get kind of muddy. So I'm going to make sure that I kind of eliminate as much of that graphite as I can. I'm going to pull some of that out of there and try to eliminate as many of my pencil lines as I can. And then I'm going to just come in, and I'm not going to use as much of a sharp tip coloring yet. So I'm going to just come in and get a basic color down. And then I'll come back in and fill this in. What I want to do is I want to get a darker texture down. And then once I can do that, and once I come back in, it's going to give me a little bit of a second, it'll be like a second coat. So here I'm going to now sharpen my pencil up. And once I've got it really nice and sharp, I don't even think that's sharp enough. We're going to go a couple more times. Now that I've got it really nice and sharp, I'm going to go in here and really come in with that sharp tip color. And if I'm going to move you a little bit closer so you can see this, I do want you to get the idea about how this can really make a difference. So look at how the color, when I get the color in here, with that sharp tip, it really fills in these spaces. And I don't have to color very hard. You know, sometimes to get it, sometimes you feel like you have to color really hard to get that color, to get that solid color with colored pencils. But you really just need a sharp tip. So here we go, and then I'm going to come in. So the way I can make my shadows, there are two. I need to make both shadow on my banana, and I need to make brown spots, and they're ridiculously similar to the same color. The brown spots are just darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by coloring in sort of this edge. It's a flat-ish edge, and I'm going to color so lightly. Oops, that wasn't very light. Did you see that? Almost a mistake I made. So I'm going to color over this. I'm going to, give it a very light shade, and the slower I go, kind of the better it might get. And so I'm just going to color this whole side light enough that it doesn't really look like too much of a shadow. And maybe toward the bottom of that banana, I'll be a little bit darker. And I'm just going to put this light layer on. And then I'm going to come back with my yellow, and I'm going to color over this. Already, though, can you see the 3-dimension sort of popping in here? That dimension, really, you can start to see how this is going to pop out. Okay, and then I only see dots just sort of on this side. I don't see a lot of them, but I do see some spots. And I'm going to try to not draw all of them in, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a texture that's that you can see. So I'll draw a few in, and then maybe a few more as I kind of wandering around this side, putting a few dots here and there, and then lightly coloring in that area too, because it makes it a little more realistic. Okay. So now here is my banana shape, and to give it a little more, a little warmer tone over here, I'm going to come in with a little bit of orange, just because orange is a warmer, it's like yellow but with a little added warmth. And then I'm going to come in with my yellow down below and really cool this off by blending it in a little more. And just like I did with the shadows, I'm going to use some purple here, and I'm going to add a shadow. And it's going to be a little bit darker next to the banana. And it's going to almost disappear over here. So here, pretty quickly, we have our banana. And I can keep adding to this. There are some other things that I could add. If I want to come back in with my yellow on top of this purple and the orange, that wouldn't hurt. And I can come over here also and kind of make this banana a little more appealing. And there you go. There's our banana. And it's pretty similar. So not perfect, but we're not striving for too much perfection. We're striving for some interest and some benefit. So here we go. We have our apple and we have our banana. Now I'm going to let you guys do the orange on your own. But I do want you to remember that the orange itself is actually going to have, oops, sorry, I bumped you. The orange itself is going to have, it'll be colored orange, but the opposite color for orange is blue. And so those shadows that get in here are actually the blue over coloring on the orange. So we'll see how that goes, and I hope to see some of your drawings. I hope that you hand them in to your teacher. Let me know if you get a chance. Let me know how it works out for you, or let your teacher know, and your teacher can give me some feedback, because I'd really love to hear more about how your color mixing has gone.
Thank you, guys. I hope you have a great week. Make sure to hand this drawing into your teachers, your actual teacher, your homeroom teacher. Make sure to hand this drawing in, because they are going to look at it and help to give me some feedback and help to give you some feedback. So they're the go-between between you and myself. So please hand your drawing in. Write any notes you might like to have sent to me, or at least let your teacher know how you like the project. So I can't wait to hear from you, or hear from your teacher actually. But have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.